We've discussed this on the show before, and I'm sure it will come up again. There are quite a few projects, mostly road projects, overlapping or causing undue traffic delays. Would there be a benefit to centralized or consolidated planning, zoning, permitting, and project implementation for the county, multiple municipalities, the school system, HCC, not to mention the state? What's your take or solution to this, Fred?
Wow. When we were off air, we were talking about it. I think that the county ought to have the go on this, so that they have the coordination, central coordination, so that there's one source. Our government have so many complementary kind of benefits. Each agency has a similar benefits. What I'm trying to get at, and I think you could streamline this by having a one source, and I think you'd get a lot more done if they went to the one source where the money is.
That sounds like a good start.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that.
There you go.
So, I will say the old saying, the view is pretty good from the cheap seats. You know, it's real easy for us to sit here and say, consolidate, and sometimes that's a great thing, and there are things where that could happen. The problem is, I don't know that I feel comfortable speaking in an intelligent fashion about what could be, should be, might be consolidated, and what makes sense. I guess my point on this issue is not the fact that we haven't consolidated. I don't know that we've really taken a good, hard, serious look at what might be consolidated to see what the return on investment. When I was in my younger years managing an IT department and then multiple IT departments, one of the things that happened was there was an opportunity for consolidation. You know, the first thing we did a return on investment to see whether it made sense to do it. And then when we found out what made sense, we consolidated that, and the things that didn't make sense, we left them alone. So that's my point. And then the political thing that we talked about in the last segment, do we have the political will to do it? Because there's my theory, if your theory is correct, Colin, about the hyper partisanship, do we have a lot of turf protection going on?
Well, and I think that that's a valid point. And really, the other part that I would look at is there is certainly an opportunity for centralization, at least insofar as coordinating projects in amongst the various municipalities. By the same token, I think that there's an argument that could be made to leave certain pieces of that to the municipalities because they're going to be their own best advocate. So if we were to centralize everything at the county, then do we end up in a position where, let's say, Hagerstown gets all the benefit, and then someplace like Williamsport or someplace like Boonesboro then gets no attention because they're much smaller and the county is putting all their resources here. So, you know, I think you need a traffic cop, pun intended, to manage all these various projects because there are limited resources. And although we don't have the same type of traffic congestion that a Montgomery County may have, we do have a fair amount of traffic that goes through here, and we need to make sure the projects are coordinated so that we're not creating some sort of backlog that then lasts for hours and hours, and folks are not able to get to work. We have lost productivity and everything else.
And let me say for the record, to add one other thing to what I said, I am not for consolidations with the state because there is a different level of politics.
Well, that's exactly where I was going next.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right now, we have to fight for what we get, and if you have someone else doing that coordination, how much influence do they get over anything? And when it's coming from a state level, you're really could vastly, hugely be changing the priorities of the projects.
Well, to be honest, I mean, if the past is to bear, if the state had a say in it, we probably wouldn't get a whole heck of a lot of anything.
When we proved that in our elections.
Well, you know what, I'm going to have to disagree with that, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but we are a taker, not a giver, in terms of state taxes. We pay less taxes as a county compared to the value of the services we receive from the state. So we are upside down in terms of our contribution to state expenses, and that is a fact. That is not an opinion.
Right.
Well, and
that's where we have to go back and change some of our farms to marijuana farms. So that we can,
exactly.
You know, but that's a discussion for a different day.
But in defense of what I was saying about the consolidation, I should have clarified. Chuck led off about road projects. That's where I believe that it should be centralization. Someone in control of road, because one road leads to another, to another, to another.
Right.
And that's where there should be the focus of consolidation.
And what about purchasing contracts? If you're purchasing telephone services or internet services, and maybe some of these are already consolidated, or other types of things like that, if we can get a benefit by buying in a bigger block, you know, there are people in the telephone world that are called aggregators that make their living by buying a whole bunch of services from one of the carriers and then going out and reselling them individually and taking over the billing, but they get the better price, and their margin comes in the fact that they buy it for 10 cents from company A and they sell it to companies B, C, D, E, F for 12 cents. So, you know, there's all those kind of possibilities as well.
You know, if I may go back just for 1 second to something that you said, and I think you brought up an important point, which is that overall Washington County is a taker as opposed to being a giver. I guess the flip side of that argument.
The flip side?
Yes.
Nice pun intended, right?
Pun intended,
Okay.
Definitely.
What, the flip side?
That, you know, at the end run of that argument, or that can be taken to the point that then we shouldn't get anything. So is that because we haven't received services in the past and we haven't had the opportunity to develop to the point where we are increasing our revenue base? So just because we're not contributing that much doesn't necessarily mean that we don't deserve to then also have the opportunity to invest locally. And that's the only thing I would say about that. And it's not to say that the state hasn't been beneficial, because it has been. And this, you know, we are fortunate to live in a state that certainly has the means, but we are kind of the redheaded stepchild of Maryland as well, here in Western Maryland.
We are, and from our county west, we are the stepchild, and to the far east on the ocean side, on the beach side, on the bay side, they are the stepchildren as well. So, you know, the rural counties in Maryland really are at a disadvantage, because while it is possible for us to swing an election on our votes alone, it's not likely.
Well, and if you look at the population density in Montgomery County, Howard County, and Prince George's County, it becomes very difficult for us to compete on a level playing field.
It absolutely does. Yes. But again, I think we need to continue to try. And my point was not to suggest that we didn't deserve to get investment. I think we do need to deserve to get investment. But the reality of the numbers at this point are we take more from the state than we give back in our taxes. Your point is well taken, though. If we can build our economy, if we can get better jobs, more jobs in here, that may change.
And Jim, it looks like you're going to get the last word there.
Okay.
Next up, our panelists have chosen their winners and losers, and they're going to share them with us. Stay with us.